Mananas Jesus para hamzu todos, buenas tardes, da magufo, na matu todos hamzu pata ekonuk, esi na tres priniponi, gi no gumamu, gumatau, guma legisturan guahan, todo no para todo tau guahan, magufo za, no nita, tanalala esti na meeting. Good afternoon and welcome to all of you. I'm very happy that you're all joining us at your house, the People's House, your 38th Guam Legislature, the Guam Congress building. So now let's get started on today's agenda. This afternoon's public hearing is conducted by the Committee on Finance and Government Operations and is called to order at this time, on time, 1400 or 2 p.m. in the afternoon. First notice of this public hearing was disseminated to all senators and media outlets on January 12, 2026, with its second notice disseminated on January 16, 2026. These hearing notices were also made available on the Guam Legislature's website, our Guam Legislative Calendar, and the Government of Guam's public notice portal. The committee will hear testimony on the following bills that are on the agenda. Bill number 142-38, introduced by Telo Taitague. It's an act to amend subsection 13108.1 of Chapter 13, Title 2, Guam Code Annotated, relative to amending the Special Cost of Living Economic Task Force. The next bill will be number Bill 218-38, COR, introduced by Shelly v. Calvo. It is an act to add a new subsection 421 to Chapter 4, Title 1, Guam Code Annotated, relative to mandating the official use of the spelling of CHAMORRO in place of CHAMORRO in Guam law, policy, and public documents, and to require implementation of this change by all government agencies and public education institutions. And finally, we will hear Bill number 62-38 COR, introduced by William A. Parkinson, an act to add a new Chapter 18 to Title 4 of Guam Code Annotated, relative to ensuring fair employment practices in the government of Guam, and to cite this act as the No More Pari Pari Act of 2025. Please note, members that have joined us and also the public, earlier there was a notice that today we will hear Bill number 203-38. However, that bill has been withdrawn at the request of the author. At this time, I would like to welcome my colleagues who are joining me this afternoon. And to my right, I have Vice Speaker Tony Yada, who is also the Vice Chair of this committee, and also Senator Shelly Calvo, of course, who has a bill to be heard today, and Senator Telo Taitague, who also has a bill that will be heard today. Thank you, Senators, for being here in attendance. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone in attendance of the Legislature of Guam's general rules of conduct. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chairperson before speaking and shall state their full name for record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance and nature of the bill or nature of any item on the agenda. Personal inferences as to the character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not prohibited, or is prohibited. The chairperson of the committee may order the removal from the hearing of any member of the legislature in Guam or the public audience who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 38th Guam Legislature standing rules. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in immediate removal from the public hearing room. I don't expect that to happen today. With that, we will now proceed to hear testimony on Bill number 142-38 COR. Senator Taitague, you are recognized for your opening statement on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to my colleagues, and especially those who are here today to testify on legislation. Thank you for taking the time out to be here at the People's House, as well as those who are listening on the legislative channel. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank you most especially for convening this hearing, and for my colleagues, my agency representatives, and members of the public who are here today taking the time to engage on this important issue. When I introduced Bill 2-37 last term, the original legislation went further than what was ultimately enacted. And what this bill originally did was, if enacted, it would clarify, this particular bill would clarify statutory leadership of a special cost of living economic task force by designating the chairman of the legislative committee oversight on retirement, rather than going to the oversight chair on appropriations. So this basically reducing ambiguity over responsibility to convene and act and aligning leadership with legislative oversight of the retirement system. We thought this would be a better fit. Those who are advocating for the retirement is definitely the oversight chair who's moving forward on this. And plus the legislation was not meant to be created and then just end the conversation. The last time this body had a task force meeting was 2 years ago, and that was it. It was one conversation in a roundtable discussion, and then that was it. The intention of this task force is to find a true cost of living allowance for our retirees. It becomes very difficult for any retiree on Guam, from the government of Guam especially, to be able to make a living here on this island, especially when you have a set amount that's coming to you and no other means of income. What's even worse, and that I think the people of Guam need to understand, is that every time we see a retiree leave our island, we also find that it also leaves any type of economic growth on this island. They take that money and spend it in another state, in another country, and that hinders our economic growth here on this island. So what we need to do is we need to find a way to keep our retirees home, provide them with the dignity of a cost of living that's true to form. We see this happening all the time in the federal government, where the retirees receive an adjustment based on the economic growth, based on the cost of living. So a retiree who lives in California, let's say works for a federal government, lives in California, receives a different subsidy than a retiree living, let's say, in Texas, where the cost of living is different. It's lower. But the federal government takes the time to adjust that for their retirees. So the conversation was never supposed to end 2 years ago. It was to continue to find a true cost of living for those who sacrificed their life for our community. So that's what this bill does. It simply puts, the oversight chair of retirement will be the chairman of this task force moving forward, who has more of an invested interest and oversees retirement than one who is the oversight chair of appropriations. So it's a very simple bill, but it's huge for many, many retirees who are waiting and have been waiting to adjust their true cost of living on this island instead of having them move away. So, Mr. Chair, that is basically a very simple bill, and I thank you again for hearing this legislation, and hopefully it can move swiftly so we can get started with this task force. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jesus Mahasi, Senator Taitague. I have signed up. I'm not sure to have oral testimony or not, so I'll just read the names into the record. Maria May R. Ada, Frank Muña, and Juanita Cruz. Juanita Cruz and Frank Muña indicated yes in support of the bill. Would any of those who signed up would like to come forward to speak on the bill?
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Just a quick notation, I forgot to mention this. I actually had a meeting in my office at 11:30 this afternoon with the Director of Retirement, and she did receive your invitation to attend, and she will provide written testimony and said that she has no problem with the legislation.
Okay, that's...
Just to FYI.
Yeah, okay. Noted for the record, Senator. Once again, an invitation for anyone who has signed up in support. Would you like to come forward and provide oral testimony, or was it just an acknowledgement that you're in support? Okay, so with that, Senator, we have these three individuals signed up. Now that we know we're anticipating retirement to send in testimony. Committee so far has not received additional, but of course the record will remain open. I will open now. Would you like to go last for other senators to maybe have comments or questions?
Standing by for any questions they may have.
Vice Speaker, do you have any questions on the bill or comments?
Well, because we don't have retirement here, Mr. Chair, we'll go ahead and hold any questions, and perhaps maybe another hearing may be conducted on this issue so that we can get those other individuals to the table and see how we can move forward with this legislation. But definitely look forward to hearing this legislation.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Ada. Senator Calvo, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't really have any question. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll give the author a chance to make some comments and close, and we'll continue to receive testimony and see what the disposition of the bill will be, but please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in closing, and I think this is one of the fastest public hearings, hopefully, get through really quick, because it's very simple. It's very, very simple. We're just taking the chairman of this task force, the COLA task force, to be transferred over to the oversight chair on retirement. And again, as I mentioned, the Department of Retirement, who I met with at 11:30 today, said that they support anything that's going to move forward, and they have really no objections to this bill at all. It's pretty much just administrative in nature. So I asked Mr. Chair that we can get this bill on the session floor as soon as possible. There are a lot of retirees out there who really want to see progress with this body, with this legislature actually addressing the concern that they have. And to find a way to stop our retirees from leaving this island. And you know that they don't want to leave. They don't. But it's hard for them to make a living. We're being priced out of our own island. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Taitague. So yes, I look forward to the submission of the written testimony from the retirement folks, and then the committee will then take up any disposition on it. If it's, as the author says, simple support and something that we can move on quickly, the committee will quickly work on the committee report. As you said, not only a fast hearing, but this might be my shortest committee report that I've ever put together too, because believe me, they can get quite lengthy. So at this time, then I will call with that Bill 142-38 COR has been duly heard by the committee. And so now we will move along to the next bill on the agenda, and that is Bill, here's my number.
218.
This is Bill 218-38 COR, once again introduced by Shelly V. Calvo. I have introduced the title of it during the opening, so I will now ask the author of the bill to make her opening statement on the legislation. Senator Calvo, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair. Good afternoon once again. Buenas, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is going to be quite a lengthy opening. The spelling CHAMORRO was decided long ago and has already been widely adopted by educators, language practitioners, scholars, and cultural experts. Bill 218-38 is not introducing something new. Rather, it is an initiative to formally affirm and recognize what is already in practice. Codifying this spelling plays a critical role in the education system, language preservation, information transmission, and even international relations. Here in Guam, 3 different spelling variations of the same identity are currently used, creating inconsistency and confusion. In contrast, other peoples and nations do not face this issue. We do not see multiple spellings for Americans, Japanese, Koreans, Taiwanese, and others. A unified spelling strengthens clarity, legitimacy, and recognition. We often speak about utilizing the uniqueness of Guam's heritage, culture, and identity to propel our tourism efforts. Yet, we fail to focus on strengthening the very commodity many seek to promote and sell in the global stage. Without a clear and affirmed cultural and linguistic foundation, these efforts lose authenticity and meaning. While this initiative may appear insignificant to those who do not understand the true intent of this initiative, as well as the deeper context of language codification, it is in fact a necessary step to protect and preserve CHAMORRO language and island identity for the international stage and for the future generations. If we do not begin this work now, then when? Some would argue that codifying CHAMORRO would be costly. However, in today's digital age, this concern is largely unfounded. With modern technology, agencies and organizations can update spelling and materials digitally with minimal to no additional cost. Websites, databases, documents, and educational resources can be revised efficiently without the financial burden often assumed. The cost of inaction, however, is far greater. Failing to codify and affirm CHAMORRO risks continued confusion, weakened language preservation efforts, and the gradual erosion of cultural and island identity. Losses that cannot be easily or cheaply recovered. At its core, Bill 218-38 is a measure about clarity, consistency, and respect. It is about how we name ourselves in our laws, in our classrooms, in our public institutions, and what it means when we are not consistent in doing so. Right now, as I mentioned earlier, across Guam government, we are using 3 different spellings interchangeably to describe the same people, the same language, and the same culture. We see the variance in spelling use across statutes, agency documents, educational materials, and public signage. That inconsistency is not just cosmetic. It creates confusion. It weakens standardization, and it sends mixed messages, especially to our youth, especially the future generation, about what is correct and what is official and what is respected. This bill seeks to address the inconsistency by formally adopting CHAMORRO as the standard spelling across the government while allowing reasonable exemptions for historical and legal accuracy. It also establishes an interagency working group led by the Department of CHAMORRO Affairs and the Department of Administration to provide technical guidance, support agencies through implementation, and ensure this transition is thoughtful, coordinated, and practical. Orthographic rules need standards. Language, especially indigenous language, cannot be preserved or taught effectively without consistency. And our government, whether we intend to or not, sets standards by what it chooses to codify. I often liken this to what happens when somebody gets married and chooses to change their name. That process can feel cumbersome at first. There are forms to update, records to revise, and systems to adjust. But people go through that process because names matter, because identity matter. And once those administrative changes are made, clarity follows, consistency follows. Life moves on with fewer questions and fewer corrections. This bill does the same thing. At an institutional level, it provides a clear standard, a reasonable phase-in period, and collaboration with the very agencies best equipped to guide proper usage. It respects history. It preserves legal accuracy when needed, and ensures that implementation is practical, not disruptive. So the question before us today is not whether this change is already happening, because the truth of the matter is this change, it's already happening. The question is whether our government will lead with clarity or continue to lag behind with inconsistency. I look forward to the testimonies today and to hearing from our language experts, cultural leaders, educators, and administrative agencies on how we can implement this thoughtfully and responsibly. Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair.
Sidus Masi para Hagulokwi, Senador Calvo. We have quite a group today to testify, so we will start. As I call your name, all are in support. As I call your name, if you're preparing, most of them do indicate, but not all, whether or not you'll be providing oral as well as written. Please come forward as I call your name. So Dr. Laura M.T. Souder, Congressman Robert Underwood, and you're both representing the Commission. Geraldine Cepeda, Lucia Calvo, Lourdes Manglotnia, Peter R. Onadera, John Howard, Patricia Tunga, or yeah, I think that's Pietra, sorry, I might have messed that up, Pietra Tunga, J. Annalyn Tunga, Simone Bollinger, Lucille Lizama. Okay, we're not full yet, so we'll keep going. Mayor Brian J. Talahi. Olivia, and you're going to help me with this one. Paluvin, I think. I can't read the rest of it. But Miss Olivia. Elrida Cruz. Frank Munya. Juanita Cruz. Dr. Michael Bavacqua, and Anne-Marie Arceu, no Maestran Hurao. So anyone who's planning for oral testimony, I see everyone here that's planning for that, to include now the arrival of Miss Anne-Marie. So with that, thank you for everyone else whose name hopefully I didn't murder. But for those who are in front of us, I thank you now for coming forward. Dr. Souder, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Dongkluna sidus maasi para todos hamzu ni mangehilu I legislatura otuto tatlu I tautau ni mane ekungog I mangaigi gwini zani mane ekungog gigima no. Importante sti na momento para hami gi komisyon. Put I testimonium I bill number 218-218 I 38 na legislatura. Thank you all for your presence, for your support, and ladies and gentlemen of the legislature, we thank you too for your continued support of our Chamorro revitalization efforts. Senator Shelly Calvo, Chair of the Legislative Committee for Culture, has introduced Bill 218-38, which proposes the formal adaptation or adoption of the orthographically correct spelling CHAMORRO in place of CHAMORRO across Guam law, policy, and public documents. This measure reflects long-standing efforts advanced by the Commission and other Chamorro language scholars, educators, and cultural institutions to promote and respect the accurate, culturally relevant, official spelling canon contained in Guajan's orthography and CHAMORRO. Personally, I applaud this long-awaited measure. From the vantage point of my role as Gehilo of the Commission, I am immensely grateful that the Senator recognizes and understands the importance of the orthography in language revitalization and has honored our request to introduce this legislation. The orthographically aligned spelling of CHAMORRO has been used for decades by teachers and those learning how to read and write in our indigenous language. Because our children are not learning CHAMORRO as their first language, they learn in school or in classroom settings through written material. Our ancestors and elders who learned CHAMORRO as a spoken language through oral transmission did not need a spelling system to teach it to the next generation. However, the interruption of learning CHAMORRO that way due to English-only policies promulgated by the US government necessitated that we take a different approach. We have gone from orality to literacy. This requires understanding grammar and spelling rules. Teaching CHAMORRO as a second language has made standardization of spelling a critical need. Every dynamic modern language has a system of spelling and grammatical rules attached to it. CHAMORRO continues to be a living language because speakers through the centuries have made changes, incorporated new words, and customized them to the implicit rules contained in our spoken language. The orthographic spelling of CHAMORRO has been used for decades, but not consistently. This effort to standardize government usage is but another step to complete the process. Aligning our spelling and naming practices with the way words are pronounced in our spoken language is a sign of profound respect for the mother tongue that has been gifted to us by our indigenous ancestors. When we transform borrowed words or colonial terms so that they become part of our linguistic structure, we are engaged in decolonization. Such acts of cultural sovereignty move us away from the spotlight of doubt that is often caused by a colonial mindset. Why now? Is it so urgent? Simply put, incorrect spelling of proper names is not acceptable. If your name was misspelled, especially in official documents, wouldn't you do what it takes to seek legal redress and ensure that the correct spelling of who you are called is used moving forward? That is what this act represents. I commend Senator Calvo and the other members of the 38th Guam legislature for their effort to ensure CHAMORRO language continuity and for introducing measures to provide second language learners of the CHAMORRO language with a spelling canon or standards for consistency and predictability in pronunciation, reading, and writing. In conclusion, the spelling change proposed in Bill 218-38 COR is no small thing. People have fought and died to protect, defend, and perpetuate their ancestral languages. Acts of cultural sovereignty, restorative justice, and decolonization are not acts in futility, nor are they a waste of effort, money, or time. As nations throughout the world decolonize, they transform colonial spellings of what they are called to more authentic, culturally relevant terms. So Palau reverts to Belao. Peking reverts to Beijing. Bombay reverts to Mumbai. For us, CHAMORRO becomes CHAMORRO. Let's get this done.
Si just mwasi no Dr. Laura Sauder by the testimony. Next, I will recognize Congressman Robert Underwood. Please proceed with your testimony.
Buenas tardes todos, Hamza, Mr. Chair, and especially Senator Calvo for introducing this vital piece of legislation. I have a really well-written statement here that I'm sure all of you will read. And what I just wanted to say a few things about this. This is an incredibly important piece of legislation, although some people might think of it as trivial or inconsequential, that it doesn't really matter that much, but it is very important. I say this from someone who has been vitally, emotionally, and professionally interested in anything related to being Chamorro from the time I was a 5th grader in California, trying to teach a few Chamorro words to my classmates, to earlier this month using some borrowed English words into Chamorro like Bogart and Mullard to refer to some of our military leaders, as well as some unusually cooperative political leadership. I avoided other words borrowed from English like coxsackie, which is another very important contribution to the growth and the flexibility of the Chamorro language. Now, along this path, there's been many successes and there's been many disappointments that I've had along the way. But almost all of these struggles reveal the strength of a very unique group of people who historically, in human history, it's really important to understand this, people don't really recognize this. Historically, in human history, they are the first people to sail over the remote ocean. And they arrived here in Guam almost 4,000 years ago, and also in Saipan, maybe a little bit ahead of the settlement in Letexan. So we're not talking about a group of people that are barely surviving into the 21st century. We're talking about a great people who have done great things in the past and established a civilization and a way of life that continues to inspire us 4,000 years later. The greatest gift that we have from these people is language. It is really, truly a remarkable feature of our existence today that we can use words which are comprehensible to those first people. I think of words like pakzo, tupu, pugas, mamaon, and I am instantly transported through millennia of existence and pride. We're here to formalize the spelling of the name of these people, at least here in Guam. There will be arguments about whether Chamorro itself is the right term, and about why change its spelling when it has been written CHAMORRO for at least 200 years. It is amazing that with all of our capacity to understand human history and 4,000 years of history, we remain stuck on spelling as the definer of who we are. There's been a lot of ridiculous chatter aimed at Senator Calvo that this is symbolic and doesn't address more substantive issues like economic or political matters. Of course it is symbolic. That's exactly the point. That is why it is important. We do so many things ritually and symbolically. It defines, reinforces, and inspires our sense of purpose and identity. When we say the words of the Pledge of Allegiance, or we say the Inafresi, those words are just symbolic. But they remind us of who we are and what we should strive for. When the words liberty and justice for all are repeated by millions of children every day, I wonder whether the adults are really trying to carry out that mission. When thousands of children sing Fanohgi Chamorro, I wonder whether the adults are really standing up for the Chamorro people. Today is one of those days when we symbolically stand up for the Chamorro people of Guam. Of course, changing the spelling itself, or actually recognizing the spelling, courtesy of efforts like many here, including my good friend Peter Unadera, changing the spelling doesn't itself promote the language of or culture. Of course, arguments about spelling and those dreaded orthographic rules seem pointless and almost academic. This is one of the few communities where people use the word orthography regularly as some kind of weapon. The same could be said for orthographic rules for English, but the rules themselves are necessary. I try to smile when members of the Commission who have been entrusted by you and the community of the island to make rules are dismissed as academics or pointy-headed intellectuals making decisions over the public. Guam has a public body to make this determination. For American English, most of you don't even know how these rules are made. How do you spell words in English? Well, for American English, the rules are made by dictionaries and the Modern Language Association. Basically, English language academics makes those decisions. That's who makes them, and we don't know who they are. But the good news for Guam is every one of you can talk to anybody on the Commission to talk to somebody who actually makes rules about spelling. That's the good news. They have regular and public meetings every month. I doubt if anyone here today knows anyone who makes rules about how to spell words in American English. In order to facilitate the use of the language, in order to encourage reading and writing, we need a system that we all utilize. Spelling rules may or may not make sense to the millions who use it, but they use the rules in any event. Fortunately, we live in a world where typesetting, document presentation, digitization, and spelling corrections by English teachers are no longer necessary. Computer programs will do it for you right away. Spell check will do it for you right away. And here's the good news. Spell check is coming in CHAMORRO to a computer near you before too long. In this particular instance, the legislation requires you that it be spelled C-H-A-M-O-R-U. This is not a new idea, nor is it going to cause a heart attack, nor will it cause language disorientation. In fact, it is spelled CHAMORRO more frequently now than the older, more familiar forms for us older CHAMORRO speakers. This is how it is taught in schools. This is how people use it in the internet. This is the preferred form for anyone in the younger generations. So all I think Senator Calvo is asking you to do is to recognize that. I am a proud member of the Commission Finot CHAMORRO, and Dr. Sauder has already presented the Commission's position on this matter. But I just want to make this point. Previous commissions basically avoided this issue by proclaiming that orthography doesn't apply to proper nouns. In those days when it first began, CHAMORRO with a double R-O is a proper noun. But every one of them knew since the very beginning that it isn't pronounced CHAMORRO. They all knew it was CHAMORRO. They always knew that. It's about time that the spelling reflect the reality of pronunciation and popular usage today. The Commission has other legal obligations in addition to making spelling rules as determined by the Guam legislature. It has responsibilities in deciding place names. There are more controversies to become for you, as when the Commission addresses whether Nimitz Hill, Marble, Agafagumas, and Camp Witik, amongst others, should revert back to their original forms. That is a charge given to the Commission. It's a public charge. Now, I want to stress that. Its Commission is open to the public. It is a public charge. And I'm sure that there will be avid conversation on those items as well. Pues si Diyos mase no itempon mizo, Unaizu stina privilegio para besangan didi por experiencia ko gini na kinalamten. Lo sempre ang liig gini manatati sempre na liig na fit misti na hinenge na dinansi bidada niya si Senator Calvo. Si Jus Masi.
Si Jus Masi para hago lokwi Congressman Underwood. Then no ununa must make good CHAMORRO gitzagohan. Si Jus Masi. Para hago pago no Senyor Onadera consigue hago recognition pago.
Guahusi dispensão. Si Jus Masi san hafede Guahusi Peter Onadera. Kagizo gwini na haani para bayo fanai testimonio para sinapotin priniponi 2-18 para uma-adopta tot como oficial idinilicheha dabe kapitaliza C A M O R U gimanata tisiha na tinigi uson dan minantieni na dokumento pareho oficial dan regulat artikulo record dan kinalamtin put este na finiho ni hagas ha establisa hit na tau guahan dan kun todo ifinota. This spelling is near and dear to my heart because I was the executive director at the time. The nine-member board of directors of the Commissione Finot CHAMORU took this issue at hand and made a decision on it. And it is still clear to me to this very day who those 9 members of the Commission were. The late Dr. Bernadita Camacho Dunca, the late Ana Borja Garcia, the late Dr. Jeffrey Tainatongo Barcinas, the late Josefina Perez Barcinas, the late Francisco San Nicolas, and still alive today, Juanita Tovis Paredo, Sister Bernadette Quintanilla, Rosa Salas Palomo, and William Paulino, because they unanimously decided to obey the rules of the CHAMORRO orthography that was established in 1983. In looking over my records of those days, the motion was made by Sister Bernadette Quintanilla, seconded by the late Dr. Jeff Barcinas, and unanimously approved by the members present. I learned the mandate of the orthography and the list of 17 rules that were its provisions. There were 2 points made clear by the orthography. First, that its main purpose was to follow the rule as to how to spell words in the language. It didn't change our language in any way, such as grammar and structure, and it didn't recommend how the language was to be used. The explanation given was how to conduct correct spelling of words. The second point, which can be considered important, was that the orthography wouldn't work if it wasn't used at all. For the CHAMORRO language to thrive, then it has to be seen in print and to use the correct process. When a new law established the present Commission on CHAMORRO Language and the teaching of the history and culture of the indigenous people of Guam, their board of directors continued the use of the spelling, and it was this that prompted Senator Shelly v. Calvo from the 38th Guam legislature to propose that the word CHAMORRO be officially adopted to reflect Capitaliza CHAMORRO. Thus, Bill 21838 formally proposes the spelling to be accepted so that it will be a law on Guam on government publications and materials that would also follow suit to ensure publication. Indeed, it has been 40 years since this spelling has been in effect and been utilized, including myself, who I've embarked already on completing 10 books. I have written and had a column in the Pacific Daily News, and currently I also submit 2 weekly articles in Condit News on Facebook. And so I have written entirely in the CHAMORRO language, in English as well as in a bilingual format. I know that there will be feelings off and about this bill. Some will be bothered, some will be educated on the word and its reason for adoption, and some will be confused But at long last, it will be before the people of Guam who will be informed in order for a decision to be made whether to accept it or negate it. From this, I'll touch upon some perceived reactions regarding the matter. There will be questions from our brothers and sisters to the north of us, the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas. They have been separate from us for practically more than a century, and even though we have now become closely associated because of our status as sister territories of the United States, we will not be together on this move, especially as the issue affects us together. We, since the beginning of time, are CHAMORRO and will forever be. Once this bill becomes law again, it will affect only those of us who live in Guam and not the CHAMORRO of Rota, Tinian, Saipan, on the islands farther north. The spelling will not be acceptable to them. In addition, they do not follow our CHAMORRO orthography and have embarked on their own to craft and create theirs. In addition, a group of scholars and linguists in the CNMI have been working on their own official dictionary, contrary to the ones written by the late Dr. Donald Topping, Dr. Bernardita Camacho Dunca, and Don Pedro Ogo, who was from Luta. All three are now deceased. In addition, the one written, printed, and distributed by the Department of Chamorro Affairs in recent times was our latest compilation of the dictionary. I'm not sure the CNMI dictionary work has been completed and is now in full use in the Commonwealth. There will also be reactions from our relatives, brothers, sisters, and descendants who now live in the 50 states of the Union. When I stayed for a brief period, actually 4 years in San Diego, I presented the issue of the spelling to those Chamorro who enrolled in the Chamorro Language Foundation classes that I established while living there. It was a school where I had huge enrollments from nearby surrounding cities. Many were aghast and denied that such a move was decided by 9 members of the island of Guam. Many were extremely upset, while others were indifferent as they claimed that they have no more ties to the island and neither to the language. Now I was aghast at that too, and it hit me like a slap in the face. The biggest question that resulted in my attempt to educate them was, why fix something that wasn't broken in the first place? I tried my best to let them know that an official orthography for the island was what brought this about. As a final thought, many said that they will keep the traditional and conventional spelling of Tse Ame Orere O until they leave this earth. I support this bill. I've taught this spelling that I adopted from the Chamorro Language Commission to my years as an instructor at UOG and GCC, as well as in the books that I've written in the Chamorro language, academic articles, news columns in both the Pacific Daily News and presently, like I said, with Candid News and Facebook. However, there must be an addendum where I would like to urge its inclusion. The alphabetum CHAMORRO must also be included to explain the capitalization of 2 letters made up of 2 characters. The capitalisa Tse, dikiki letra Tse, and the capitalisa Nye, and the dikiki letra Nye. All proper nouns such as CHAMORRO, Japanese, Chino, as well as Nganga, like in the also known as family name, are capitalized, as well as when they begin sentences to, for example, Chuli e Escoba dyan ilampaso, Tsonik e sahjan hujung i katsada, Ngadzu put favor para imabiran i babwi, Ngingi e sainamu todo i tempo dyan ngasan i asonya kulan gagagwe. Right? In short, the alphabetum CHAMORRO is stored in the school system, but still not everyone is aware of its existence. Everyone in the island must be made aware that the alfabeto has been in existence too since 1983, when the orthography was established simultaneously. This way, everyone would be educated. I'm not sure at this very moment if anyone among you seated up there know your alphabetum CHAMORRO. Learn it too. And in case you didn't know, there are 24 letters that are pronounced differently. from what you are accustomed to in the English alphabet. In closing, here is the alphabet on CHAMORRO in all its glory. Those of you who are here and are either members or employees of the Commissione Fino CHAMORRO and Finanaugini Historias and Ilinale Tautotanu, please recite along with me. Glota, A, O, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, N, N, O, P, R, C, Tu, T, U, Z. Dispensa. Jesus Masi.
Jesus Maxi Hagaloqui, Signor Pedro Nadera, Zamagai Loqui no make good not so more how the magofo na magagi ogimi. Dispensa or no tori pano siya na mangagi be introducer Zamalefa to introduce ST si Senator Parkinson. Tizoku pari lo Guadonia pari bill gini lo no malik magofo nagagi si Senator Parkinson. Welcome, Senator Parkinson. Okay. So we will just continue to the left now. Ma'am, I'll recognize you, and please go ahead and introduce yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hafere todos hamzu, Guajosi Simon Ifigenia Perez Bollinger, Familia Bonio, Profesora zu Giza Culejon Comunidad Guajan. I'm happy to speak today and give my perspective as we discuss Bill 218-38 relative to mandating the official use of the spelling CHAMORRO in place of CHAMORRO. My perspective is partially informed by my official capacity as Associate Professor and Chairperson of the English Department, which houses the CHAMORRO track of the Liberal Studies program at Guam Community College. I also speak as a student of the CHAMORRO language, as someone who delights in learning the grammar and orthography of my mother's first language. At GCC, we have classes such as CHAMORRO Composition, which seeks to improve literacy levels in CHAMORRO, and Utugufihan CHAMORRO Guajan, which examines the local orthography. Both courses use the official Guajan orthography, including the spelling CHAMORRO. In our classes, we discuss the role of an orthography, and specifically the spelling of CHAMORRO. Some people still hold on to the Spanish spelling of the word that many of us grew up with, and argue the importance of producing speakers over questions of spelling. They're not wrong. We desperately need young, fluent speakers. However, now we have the GDOE Immersion Program, Fanidzakan Sinipuk, and the Magalahan Harao CHAMORRO Academy Charter School, both of which are producing fluent CHAMORRO speakers. The need is shifting. We need consistency. But it's not only fluent speakers or academics who need consistency. This morning on our way to school, my daughter asked what I was up to today. When I told her I was coming here to support this bill, she smiled and said, "Of course you are." She was tickled that our language was being discussed at such a high level of government. "It makes sense," she said. "We don't have a C in our alphabet." So even GDOE students who are not fluent in the language recognize that there is an inconsistency in the old spelling. This really is a time for us CHAMORROs on Guajan to come together on this topic. It's about defining or redefining ourselves. Just like in English or any other language, the way we spell matters and defines us. Language is dynamic, shifting in word usage, pronunciation, and even spelling. It's amazing. But for many, these changes can feel personal. Our passion for the language is so strong that sometimes it feels as if there are landmines in any conversation about orthography or how to say something the correct way in CHAMORRO. Landmines discourage conversation and can make it feel unsafe for people who desire to learn the language. What I hope to offer today is lighter perspective on the Te spelling of CHAMORRO and our unique orthography. If you'll indulge me as an English professor, I'd like to use a short poem to do this, written by my former colleague at GCC and good friend Desiree Timinglo Ventura. This poem speaks to the unique power of the CHAMORRO language and its orthography, and the desire of many of us who have to study a language we wish was our mother tongue. It's called Profesora Fino Inglés in the book Kinalamtengi Pacifico. I can't use a bad word, right? There's a slightly I'll skip it. Wish I caught glottas like I catch commas, that I could red pen the heck out of that infix. Wish we didn't have to spend this hour talking Latin roots, that I could wax on about our root words, gupu, gumupu. I want to call out reduplication real quick, like I do run-ons, malalago. I want to look it up from Dunca and tell Webster to peace out. Because who cares if this is the British or American form, when all we really want to know is how Luta says it? Why can't we spend the day debating whether we're Maulik or Mauleg? Why am I teaching a language so bastardized, so weak, that a single sentence needs to borrow from 4 different countries? When we have tongues so powerful, they change whole words, cutting them apart, interrupting and disturbing them, shaking the heck out of them until they are uniquely ours. Synexy. We steal vowels and replace them so our melody stays fierce. Ifleres. I know that's a landmine. We dress up our A's with lonats, give our N's, tildes, and G's, making 3, because a simple N could not contain us. And we tricked out our C because 1 capital letter wasn't even enough to announce us. Thank you for hearing me out. Just want to remind us that as we move forward in this discussion, which, as Senor Onadera stated, will come with a lot of backlash from people who feel very strongly, that there's a light way to look at it too, and I hope we can all enjoy this discussion of language in the public and here as well. Sidus Masi.
Sidus Masi para hago, Senora Simon Bollinger, da basiga ni esti magai megudao na samarita CHAMORRO. Sidus Masi talo. Ma'am, please proceed, introduce yourself and go for yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair,
Introduce
Vice Chair, and Vice Speaker Ada. Let me see, our Judiciary Chair, I'll welcome her when she comes back, Senator Calvo and also Senator Parkinson. My name is Geraldine Amparo Cepeda. I'm the compiler of laws for Guam, and I offer testimony today. I'll be reading my written testimony into the record, but I'll also submit it and welcome questions afterwards. First of all, I'd like to thank Commission for inviting me to testify today and to give some input as to the bill. The stated intent of Bill 21838 is the formal adoption of the spelling CHAMORRO, capital CH, in place of CHAMORRO across official government documents, statutes, educational materials, and agency names. Specifically, Section 2 of the bill proposes to add a new Section 421 to Chapter 4 of Title I of the Guam Code Annotated. I present testimony here today in my capacity as the compiler of laws, the official publisher of primary Guam law, which includes but is not limited to statutes, rules and regulations, and rulings from the courts of Guam. Although I recognize the important intent of Bill 21838, I would like to express my reservations as to some of the language in the bill and to offer points for consideration. First, and again, as Senator Calvo recognized, the bill refers only to the legacy spelling of CHAMORRO, CHAMORRO. However, the alternative spelling of CHAMORRO, CHAMORRU, has also been used in past legislation, policy, and public documents. If there is an intent to use CHAMORRO exclusively, the committee may wish to clarify that both spellings of the term should be replaced with CHAMORRO. Second, while proposed Section 421 subsection B defines the legacy spelling mandated to be replaced, it also sets forth exceptions. Specifically, there is no change for usage, quote, in a historical or legally established context. This is a vague standard and it lacks clear guidance for applying the exceptions, and it is also open to interpretation. Therefore, it inherently involves the exercise of discretion in interpreting the usage. The unintended result would be the potential for conflicting or contradictory application of the exception, which would cause inconsistency and confusion regarding the appropriate use of CHAMORRO. Third, and most significantly for the compiler's office, is proposed subsection 421 subsection C, which states in its entirety, the compiler of laws is authorized and directed to revise the Guam Code Annotated, GCA, and other codified government publications to replace all instances of the term CHAMORRO with CHAMORRU, except in proper nouns, names of historic programs, or references where legal or historical accuracy requires retention of the legacy term. As drafted, subsection C refers only to codified publications such as the GCA and the Guam Administrative Rules and Regulations, or GAR, which are published online. However, the compiler's office is also responsible for publishing other primary sources of law, such as court decisions, which are not codified. If there is an intent to extend the authority and mandate to all publications from the compiler's office, the committee may wish to clarify the language to ensure the language of the bill meets the intent of the legislation. Proposed subsection 421C also includes exceptions to the compiler's mandate to replace, and specifically there is no change for, quote, proper nouns, names of historic programs, or references where legal or historical accuracy requires retention of the legacy term, end quote. While this language is somewhat more specific than proposed subsection B, it still calls for interpretation and the exercise of discretion to determine whether to make the replacement. Again, applying the exceptions might result in inconsistency and confusion. I offer one example found in Title 17 GCA, Section 12103 Definitions, where subsection 12103C refers to the Chamorro language immersion program. This usage is both a proper noun and a historic program. Therefore, the exception of proposed subsection 421C would apply, and consequently, the legacy spelling of Chamorro would not be changed by the compiler. The irony of this example is that applying the exception means the program to preserve Guam's language and culture would end up retaining, quote, the Spanish colonial era spelling. On a fundamental level, I must express my concern that the tasks contemplated by Bill 21838 extend beyond the compiler's statutory authority regarding revision and requires using vague standards to determine whether to alter statutory language. It is left to the compiler first to identify occurrences of the legacy spelling, second, to determine whether the exceptions apply, and significantly, whether to change statutory language that was originally passed by the Guam legislature. In conclusion, I respectfully request the committee members consider the concerns I have raised in my testimony. Please feel free to contact me for further assistance, and again, I will remain for any questions. One point to clarify, Mr. Chair, based on my position as the compiler, I have not made a position whether in favor or against the bill. Thank you.
Senora Geraldine Cepeda. And in consideration of your testimony, I'll wait for the questions from the panel, but that may include then a markup, and we'll invite the Commission and others but maybe those points will be clarified today. But thank you for allowing us to understand the legal basis going forward and how we move forward. But like I said, I think we can sort these things out. Consegui, Mayor. Ako work in sa pago.
Timed gusto na CHAMORRO?
No.
What's it take now?
I'm a nodzan no testimony. And no na me go down.
Tanangas na kumanodzan.
And no na tempo.
Minagov taloani para toru hamzu. Iman honorab din na senador zan senadora Siha. I have to say in English that I'm very honored to sit here in this panel because many of my manyaina that are sitting up here have molded me and shaped me to who I am as a Chamorro speaker today. So si Zu Usma si para toru hamzu manyainahu. Buenas and Hafade Tautaguahan. I respectfully submit this testimony in unwavering support of Bill 218-38, a measure that seeks to mandate the official spelling of the word CHAMORRO, capitalisa te a me ore u, in place of CHAMORRO, capitalisa te, capitalisa si, he a me ore re o, and require its use across all government of Guam agencies and public education institutions. For more than 20 years, I have served as an educator of the Chamorro language and culture with the Department of Education in the Guam public school system. During that time, I dedicated my life to teaching our children not only how to speak the language, but how to understand its meaning, its spirit, and its deep connection to who we are as a people. I taught using the standardized orthography established by the Comisión Finut CHAMORRO, a body whose members devoted their lives to protecting the integrity, accuracy, and legacy of our precious language. Their work was not casual or arbitrary. It was intentional, researched, debated, and grounded in cultural responsibility. This bill is deeply personal to me. Like many of our people today, I struggled with my identity. I know firsthand what it feels like to grow up navigating multiple narratives about who we are, who I am, our history, filtered through colonization, our language altered by outsiders, and our identity often defined for us rather than by us. For many Chamorro people, the struggle continues today. Our children, in particular, are trying to anchor themselves in a world shaped by technology, globalization, and constant cultural noise, while still yearning to belong to something rooted, authentic, and real. This testimony is not about arguing what is correct versus incorrect. It is not about dismissing anyone's lived experiences or memories. Rather, it is about unity, consistency, and adaptation. Language evolves, but it must do so with intention, uniformity in the use of CHAMORRO, capitalisa te a me ore u, across government and educational institutions, provides clarity, strengthens cultural pride, and reinforces a shared identity, especially for future generations who will look to these institutions for guidance and legitimacy. Today, I continue this work not only as an educator at heart and in the community, but now as the Honorable Mayor of the Municipality of the Southern Village of Duenas. In this capacity, I remain committed to perpetuating and educating the correct orthographic Chamorro language, not only within my office, but throughout our village community, whether through official correspondence, community engagement, cultural events, or daily interactions. I strive to lead by example and ensure that the Chamorro language is honored, respected, and accurately represented. When government institutions model cultural responsibility, it sends a powerful message that our language matters, that our scholars are valued, and that our identity is worth protecting. Bill 218-38 does exactly that. It affirms the work of our language experts, supports educators, and most importantly, gives our people, especially our youth, a consistent and respectful foundation upon which to build their sense of self. If we truly wish to preserve the legacy of our ancestors for generations beyond our time, then we must begin by standing together today. Let us choose unity over division, intention over ambiguity, and legacy over convenience. Let us do this not just for ourselves, but for those who have yet to come, para todos siya who will one day inherit this land, this language, and this identity. For these reasons, I wholeheartedly support Bill 218-38 and respectfully encourage my brothers and sisters to do the same. Sendangkulo na si Zuus Maasi.
Nangkulo na si Zeus Masi para haguloki no meot lahi no meot zotnya zamagahit megud haun na CHAMORRO. Zeus Masi magahit no. Hago senyor kisigi hago recognize pago.
Tirog, Raranim, half a day, my deep respect to the People's House, Honorable Senators, Chairman, Senator Christopher Duenas, Senator Shelly Calvo, Vice Speaker Anthony Lata, Senator William Parkinson, and Senator Telo Taitague. My name is John Howard. I'm from Chuk, and I'm here to provide testimony in support of Bill number 218-38. As a speaker of one of the indigenous languages of Micronesia, I understand how critical it is to preserve and perpetuate our mother tongue that our ancestors gifted to us. All the Micronesian languages, including CHAMORRO, were taught generation to generation orally. Children used to learn their indigenous language as their first language. Today, many island youth are learning English first and do not learn their indigenous language as they did in the past. So we must teach our languages as second languages. This requires that we go from orality to literacy and depend on the reading and writing of our languages in order to teach them to the next generation. We now have to teach the grammar and spelling rules of our languages. Micronesians can learn from the experience of the CHAMORRO people, as our children are not learning to speak their mother tongue in the way that my generation and those before us learned from birth. I support the work of the CHAMORRO Language Commission to standardize the spelling of the CHAMORRO language, beginning with the term CHAMORRO. I fully support the effort by Senator Shelly Calvo to recognize this by making it public policy. Thank you.
Si Masi ano Senyor John Howard zano para hago met good Micronesian how. Zano magofo na gagaw gini para tafa supporti esti na pinaponi para CHAMORRO lo Micronesian how. Kung ba na like na totally CHAMORRO man Micronesian lo kino lo. And now sempre at mas. Before I get myself in trouble, Senora Anne-Marie Arceo, consigo algo o recognize ao pago.
Buenas, Senador. Kulen megay sinintetico gwini para bay tangis para bay magof bay lalalo megay sinintetico gwini sa atmam diofana esti na henana lo. Buenas sidus masi na matu pago na ora utungo na diputsi esti sa mat dinanti ora dan toro mangai gwini ne pro sinapoti asina peneponi. Senadora Calvo, sidus maasi sen patakorosonuna, otru rasa hao poron togi para CHAMORRO pues sidus maasi na mag-guide hao ta tipon mamalaw na poron togi zan hami ni hafa para imenawlik imamala na tempo para ifamagwanta. Senador who gov agradeci na on Gogov tagi ko na hulo pon usaha na CHAMORRO pago na dia megayanaw na inadilontu e praon tagi ha. Senador Will sidus maasi nagagi ha za importante si prahago pago Then Telo Senadora Telo Sidus Masi Utungana on Gogov Supporti Doresticia. Ko CHAMORRO how, but CHAMORRO how. By song and Telo. Ko CHAMORRO how, but CHAMORRO how. Necesita en adzik. Gagi Zugwini para be representa ifamagoon. Tiput asuntun dinelechea ha pat ortografia esti. Esegui donkulo na pat din hadi hit I historiata dani nina lalai kotorata dani tinautauta. Most of the times in the past, I've been very firm about using Finot CHAMORRO, and I will not apologize, but I do regret having to proceed in the use of English instead of CHAMORRO to ensure my message is clearly understood today on this particular subject, as it has been over 30 years that I've had to face this orthographic reform. Legislating the spelling of CHAMORRO is not merely a matter of orthography. It is an affirmation of our identity, our history, our culture, and the survival of our peoplehood. Language is foundational to who we are as a people, and it cannot be separated from culture, values, and our worldview. It is linked to our existence as a people. Although the orality and storytelling of our ancestors is what has carried the survival of our language through time, we must also adapt and coexist with the evolution of time and the concept of a writing system in order for our language to survive. I witnessed the involvement of the Commissione Finot CHAMORRO for the past 35 years. I not only watched and learned as a young advocate on this mission of revitalization, I also held the position of director and administrator. I was so blessed to have the beautiful experience in the real and very committed work of our Manyaina. At the age of 24, I faced many orthographic reforms, particularly for the spelling of the word CHAMORRO. I am now 58, and we are still trying to get this right. So I have every reason to be a responsible CHAMORRO to come before you in representation of our children, to stand for this legislation that may seem to be unimportant for some, but yet so vital to the future of our revitalization. For example, as many have said, as the others have said before me, the capital CH reflects the distinct phonetics of our language and how it distinguishes our people from colonial misinterpretations that have long minimized our presence. By codifying the spelling into law, we provide clarity in education, government, and public records while honoring the resilience of the CHAMORRO people. This consistency strengthens the language revitalization efforts by reinforcing correct usage, supporting curriculum development, and normalizing CHAMORRO in official spaces. In doing so, we create a stronger foundation for the future generations to learn, speak, and proudly carry their language and identity forward. Imagine our children learning the official orthography of Guam in school, and then living in our community, seeing all the different ways we spell words in CHAMORRO, reading all the various official signage and promotions that do not align with what they are learning in school. When the children ask the question, why? Sahafa saina, sahafa na ti pareo. I can only try to support them by saying, in Taitague famagono fumamalik, pare na dinansi, dispensaham. I pray for the day to come that I will not have to keep saying that. Some examples that they bring up, particularly our 6th graders, who are very conscious of their learning, of trying to mold who they are. Our license plate. For years, I've been at the Commission as a director at 24 and at 50, at 52, and still the license plates are Tano Iman CHAMORRO, spelled unorthographically and or unaligned with our orthography. And the children asked, Usaina, Saafa, kind of running out of excuses for us adults, you know? Our village road names, one village spells Talan Paraiso one way, and another village spells Talan Paraiso another way. Our seal of Guam spells with CHAMORRO. And so the kids ask Lo Saina, Nati Lai, Esti, Tahafa Nati Matatiti Lai. So before I close, I just want to orally add that, you know, I think what's happening in our community is we're forgetting our CHAMORRO social system of Saina, Telo, and Patgun. There's been many conversations about this. Commission, if in CHAMORRO, my biggest fear is our manyaina sitting at the commission. Our elders are getting older. They're all in their 70s and above. If we do not, they exist for a reason. They've done this work for years. And although sometimes they agree, they have to agree to disagree, they're the reason that our language is still alive today. They're the reason that many of us after them are able to continue to do this work. So that our children we have something to leave with our children. And so if we don't begin to respect the Commission and their findings and their decisions, whether we agree with them or not, we need to find our place. If we're not Saina and there are Saina, then we need to find that place and just guy respect. We're losing that in our community. We treat our Sainas like they're our Telo or that we're more Saina than them. Granted, we may not agree, but there's a way to hold that respect for them, which is what is the way of our ancestors. And so I want to honor them and treasure them today because that's my greatest fear, is that we will lose them faster than we can take their knowledge to be able to pass it on to our children. That's my greatest fear. Because time is fast, and in running the charter school right now, the kids are growing up and they have more questions than ever for us. Uno gifamaguni leknya sana fanan manenko bokao hamzuni manyaina. Is that how we want to look? They actually said, I think you're confused. You elders are confused. I have to say, we're trying, Famagono, we're trying to get it together. So time is of essence. I've been watching this same issue for over 35 years. One of the things that I always ask myself in making every decision for the kids in this journey that I've been on for the last 20 years is how would it benefit or hurt our children? So as we sit here today to make this decision once and for all, I ask us as elders in this community, as leaders in this community, to think about that. To think about what we're going to leave behind for our children. Will we leave many more years for them to question their identity, to live in a questionable identity. And I'll finish with this. We must always be open to recalibrating as we grow as a people. And most importantly, as the mañana leading the next generations, we must put our differences aside and move with what will benefit our children the most. And I believe in my heart, after all the years of working and watching our mañana work and watching the history and through the journey of this revitalization, that the spelling of CHAMORRO, CHAMORRO, is just the beginning. But once we do that, I believe everything else will fall into place, as far as place names, as far as original pronunciations or correct pronunciations. I hope and I pray that I've represented our children well today, as I know that they depend on all of us and we hold their future right here in our hands. Si Diyos maasi.
Si Diyos maasi marahagoloki no Señora Anne-Marie Arceo no maestra no gi harao zani principal no todidos
Hunggan Telo.
Tamagofo no gagyaw gini zamagayit megud now na samarita zan CHAMORRO. Pues pago na no may rekinisa si senador kumogwa question niya no para hamzu todo na manggagi. Senator Calvo, would you like to go first or last in question and closing? Your option.
I don't have one question.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
So I'll just have you close then if you don't have any questions. I'll go to the other.
One question.
Please.
Yeah, just for the record.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you again to the panel for being here and for the majority of, obviously, of positive testimonies. Congressman Underwood, Mr. Peter, Ms. Simone, Ms. Geraldine, Auntie Laura, Mayor BJ, Mr. John, and Ms. Anne-Marie. Over a decade ago, I took some more lessons with Anne-Marie, and now she actually christened me with my CHAMORRO name, which many people don't know. Anyway, my question is just one. It's really with regard to the timeline. If it's truly reasonable that the 18-month phase-out period provided sufficient time for agencies to update digital systems, signages, and templates. I know in the digital databases, that's easy because pretty much, and there's no expense on that. But realistically speaking, I'd like to, for the record, I'd like to get everyone's opinion if 18 months is sufficient enough as a phase-out period. Anybody could answer, please.
Can I answer, Senator? I think it's a very generous period. When people want to do something, they can do things immediately, right? So I've seen miracles happen that way. I mean, signage on buildings can change very, very quickly. For example, the University of Guam, when it made a decision to use CHAMORRO names for the buildings, they went up in a few months, right? And so it takes commitment. It takes, if your heart is there, if your head is there, your money will be there too. And, you know, a lot of people might be concerned about expense, but people are constantly refurbishing. You know, their signs fall apart because they become pudlilu in the weather, or, you know, a strong wind brings them down and they get, you know, resurrected very, very quickly. So those are just, you know, I think that if we're predisposed to think of obstacles, obstacles will pop up in our path. But if we're committed to transformation, then we approach the tasks in a very, very different way. And I understand that this is not just going to be, as you well pointed out, our compiler of laws. It's not going to be with the click of a computer key, because there are many layers and ramifications and clarifications on what constitutes an exception, and those need to be worked out. But by and large, I think you're being very generous by giving folks 18 months to make the transformation.
I just want to say that that issue has come up before when the late Senator Mark Forbes introduced the bill to spell Agania to Hagatnya. There was a flurry of negative letters to the editor at the time and so forth, but it happened. It took place. It happened anyway, and I don't think it took that long for Agania to be replaced by Hagatnya. But so this has happened before already, and I'm sure it will happen again. And as far as I'm concerned, as Dr. Sounder has said, you're quite generous with the 18-month leeway into that kind of adjustment. I think it would be less than that, if anything. So, like I said, it has happened before, and it's nothing new, quite honestly. That's the way I think.
Thank you for your answer, Congressman.
Anytime anybody wants to do something, they can do it pretty quickly. And I think that 18 months, I really can't say that 18 months is sufficient or insufficient, but as Mr. Onodera has pointed out here, I remember the seeming controversy over Hagatnya dissipated as soon as the legislation was passed. It all just sort of went away. And I predict that this is what will happen with this, simply because it's already in use. It's already in use widely, not only in educational institutions. So in a way, it's a catch-up legislation. So, and I'm really interested also in working it out with the compiler of laws, because, I just had a brief conversation with her earlier today, and it sort of reminded me that, bureaucracies have to have a timeline and have to have a reasonable set of expectations as well. So I think that conversation and that recognition of that would solve all these issues. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Congressman. Ms. Geraldine.
Thank you, Senator. One thing to consider is my concern was the discretion, and by the language of the legislation as drafted requires determination, exercise of discretion, whereas it could be a find and replace if you said, or if the language was such that every instance of CHAMORRO is changed, no exceptions. Because in that case, there's no discretion. I'd like to point the body to Section 420, which was introduced by Senator Forbes, which removed the use of territorial in the government. We are still now finding uses of territory and territorial, and we are actively removing them. And this is decades later after the enactment. So 18 months, I hope to find, and we do have better technology now than when Senator Forbes introduced that legislation, but requiring the exercise of discretion and requiring the extra step of determining, is this going to apply? That's what would take time. A simple replacement and statement of this is the spelling, period. Then there would be no confusion, there would be no inconsistency, which I think was the main concern. So a blanket change. And if the concern would be, well, this is confusing and this doesn't recognize the history. In that case, as a compiler publication, there would be an annotation that says, as enacted, this contained a legacy spelling. And that would solve the, the preservation of what it used to say. But a misspelling is a misspelling. So why would we have to preserve a misspelling? If my name was spelled with a J, 50 years from now, I don't want that J in my name. It should be correctly spelled. And a recognition of the incorrect spelling could be somewhere, but if the name was spelled wrong, then it needs to be corrected going forward, period. So that's my position. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Geraldine. Congressman?
Yeah, I just want to point out that how refreshing it is to hear an administrator seek clarity. I'm just, and to not hold on to any prerogatives in the name of clarity. I just want to congratulate her. I know you wish every administrator came on with that kind of attitude in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Anybody want, Mayor, anybody wants to pitch in? Thank you so much. Ms. Amory?
Como intutuhon gwini, talakay azuhulu, insigiras, gugun mapasa ilay, mga mananga po mapasa zogwi ayasta, zan gobernamentos and todo hazi gumeluluhi, pas sempre matatizi tori pomalo. We leave no room or no choice for others when you leaders, when we as leaders, wherever we are, where we affect a difference, just start with us and we do it and everyone else will follow.
Thank you, Ms. Amory. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Senator Calvo, and I just have a little anecdote here. I think that perhaps the late, great Speaker Forbes, a very good friend of mine, had some advantages by having a brother, Polly Eric Forbes, who not only prayed probably over that, but is a good CHAMORRO. In fact, he has his own program to teach us how to speak CHAMORRO. So maybe he'll have a little ace in his hand. Senator Senator Taitague, you're recognized at this point.
No worries. Someone called me Taitano earlier today too, so it's still in the same T. But thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. I think everyone at this table knows, how deeply I feel about continuing the language. As been working with the Commission to change all the village names, introduce legislation for that. I mean, it's a beginning, it's a start. We might got kicked back by a couple villages, but giving up is the end. And the thing is, we can't give up, because once we do, then it is really the end. So I'm glad to see that none of you here today are giving up and moving forward on keeping our language alive. The one thing that identifies who we are is our language. So it's very important. I know that the fiscal note that was provided here really did not get in depth on the cost that it would take. I know the compiler law, I've tried to read what you wrote in your testimony. I wish I had this earlier. I had a lot of questions with regards to this. And as the oversight chair and judicial, I want to ensure that, that if you do this process, I mean, is it going to cost the judicial additional funding? You mentioned 18 months, and I kept trying to look in the bill where it says 18 months. I believe it's like 1 year that a report will be given to the legislature, but I'm trying to see that section where it says 18 months to implement this. Do you see that, Ms. Cepeda?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. This would be under line 25, page 2.
Oh, there it is.
Subsection D2.
There it is. Phase existing material within 18 months of the enactment. Okay, there I see it. And yet, there's also documentation in here that a report will be provided to the legislature actually in 12 months time from the time of enactment. So, it should be done sooner than 1 year if you're going to put any kind of report together, because you have just a few months after that to meet that 18-month requirement and may need some additional help. So there might be some amendment in there to, extend it or lessen the 1 year requirement. because then it'll give you more time to maybe come to this body to see if there's any additional assistance that we can provide you. Not everything is really quick, especially when it comes to the legislature. So we want to make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's. Now, what I'm concerned too is that this has a lot to do with having DCA. Is anyone here from DCA at all?
Miguel was here, but he had to leave, so.
Department Chair, okay, so did he provide testimony, do you know?
Yes, Senator, he did. Written testimony.
Okay, I don't have a copy of that. Okay, the other one is to also DOA, which is hand in hand with DCA to move this forward. It'd be good to also seek testimony from DOA, because again, they would be tasked with seeing this through, creating the working group. So we want to see what the hurdles they have, so that when we do go to the session floor with this bill, that we know exactly what they need to move forward, or their concerns as well. But other than that, it's going to cost. This will cost some funding to make these changes. I mean, when you're in digital mode, it's easier to do. It's just a strike of a finger. But even the Guam legislature, which I'm surprised is not in here, we need to change the sign then, and that's in our over the speaker's chair. It's spelled differently, so we need to change that, and any other kind of signage. And who's going to collect all that and find out how much this is going to cost? So for me, it's all about providing that good information is important, so that we can move forward and not just let it slide. Okay, so other than that, I thank you. I thank you so much for continuing the fight. And like I said, once you give up, then it ends. So please, please, don't give up. Thank you.
Senator Taitague. Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. I stand in full support of this legislation. I am not CHAMORRO, but I am a Filipino American, and as somebody who has my own set of cultural identity issues to work through, I understand the importance of language. And myself and my wife, we are involved locally in doing our best to make sure that children are able to learn about their language and have resources and a place to do it. I just doing it on the Filipino end because that's where I am. That's the first language I learned how to speak, and so I fully encourage the work that you folks are doing, because I see how important it is. I'm doing it in my own life. And so beyond the work that you find folks are really doing in the trenches here, I would encourage everybody in the public to, you don't have to go out there and change the world. I mean, that's something I've been thinking about when I think about some of the advice we were given growing up and coming into the world. Go out there and change the world. But you really don't need to go out there and change the world. You just got to go out there and build a community. And you could build a community around language. Language is one of the first things we do build community around. It's one of the oldest things we build community around. Before the time of writing, language is what bonded people together. And so it's especially one that is as ancient as the CHAMORRO language, is steeped in such oral tradition. It's very important that we get it right. And so I commend the effort, I support the effort, and this bill has my vote, and I look forward to supporting it. So thank you for the work, and keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
And Senator Parkinson, I only have one question for the compiler, and then I just share a couple comments before we close on the bill, my thoughts. But first of all, as I read your testimony, and as I think it's been discussed, either in markup or understanding what's going to have to happen because of the timeline, maybe we can do two things at one point. The committee will meet with the senator and see how she wants to proceed. But I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding clearly the testimony is, it's not necessarily in opposition to the bill, but letting us know that there is work to be done beyond just the passing of the law that recognizes the spelling and the orthography.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My kids are familiar Kokora Cepeda and familiar Tugan Blas, so I recognize the need to preserve the language and the culture. But my concern was strictly with regard to the language of the bill, because what I wanted to do is make sure it was achieving what the intent is. And so, although it isn't written, as I recognized earlier, a blanket change, or more specifically, the removal of the exceptions would be achieving what I think is sought to be achieved. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but in terms of changing I'm not against the bill, I'm not in opposition. I don't take a position, primarily because I would like my concerns to be addressed before, stating any support or opposition to the bill. As drafted, I have concerns which I've expressed.
That answers the question. Sometimes our role, and particularly for me, I ask a question to elicit the testimony, because sometimes when there's testimony that demonstrates the need for correction, clarification, or the like, it can be misinterpreted by others. And so I do that so that we have it on the record when we prepare the committee report and prepare going forward with the bill, that the notification to us was to be thorough. And as the good congressman said, yes, I do appreciate administrators who come here and give it to us straight.
That would be me. That would be me.
That is you.
One point, and this is not in my testimony, and actually I would like to seek the guidance from the Commission and also from the legislature. As the compiler, I take the work of this body and I compile it into the GCA.
Yes.
My question is probably cosmetic, but it is a concern to me, and it's the use of italics. Is the term CHAMORRO to be italicized or not? That's something that I think about. Right now at the compiler's office, we follow the lead of the legislature in that village names are always italicized. I don't know if this is something to be continued. I don't know if this is cosmetic. I do know for a fact that as an attorney, the Blue Book, the Uniform System of Citation, italicizes foreign words, which I've always found interesting because Chamorro is not a foreign language for us. It's it's our national language. It's the language of Guam. Do we italicize in that case? I don't know. I would like clarification, and I think the legislation could make that clearer for me as we process and as we go forward with the code. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to take advantage of subject matter experts that are in front of me, so I'm going to go to Dr. Sauter first, and then I'm going to see if Congressman Underwood would like to add to that as well. Dr. Sauter?
Thank you, and thank you so much for raising that issue. Number one, I think I heard you loud and clear that a universal application of the change would address the issue of discretionary concerns. And so amending the language of the law to make it a universal application would bring us great joy. The second is the italicization of the CHAMORRO language. And I'm glad that you actually quoted the Blue Book law or whatever that, is it Blue Book? It's the Blue Book, which says that you italicize foreign words, put favor. Let us put that nonsense to rest. CHAMORRO is one of the 2 official languages of Guam. It should never be considered a foreign language here on our land. And by unitalicizing, if we can do that with great clarity, then please include that in the law as well.
I think Senor
and I want to add on to that.
Jumping at the bit for that one too. Sige.
I just want to add on to that when I write bilingually in Chamorro and in English, I italicize English. Yeah, that's where I stand.
I think in our Chamorro language we call that kasi, right? Okay. Congressman, or you're good?
No to italicization.
Okay. But Claudio? Claudio, yeah, no. You know, I want to close by, first of all, thanking more than likely Congressman Underwood, as well as Professora Anne-Marie Arceo for putting up with my my use of Chamorro language that sometimes, you know, of course, is not completely correct. I actually, from time to time, when I'm shopping or going around, have a lot of very proficient Chamorro speakers that pull me aside and go, you know what, boy? You know, work on it a little more, but I like it because I understand it. And I know what you're saying, and it means a lot to us. That particularly when you want to make a point, you use as much Chamorro as you can in the best way you can in order to be clear for us who really like to watch the legislature while we make our lunch or prepare for our kids or our grandkids or whatever else we're doing. So thank you for giving me a little bit of latitude on there. I promise to try better going forward. Another thing is, you know, as the chairman of government operations, but as well as finance and accountability, I'm aware, keenly aware of the issues that we face on Guam and the importance of so many things we have to do. And I will not shirk that responsibility. I don't think I have. But I also am not afraid of moving forward on legislation that some may seem to not address what is perceived and believed to be of importance. I find myself particularly moved today by Mr. John to come forward as a Micronesian and to, I think, not only express his testimony that this is the right thing to do for the CHAMORRO people of Guam, but also because, if I heard your testimony correctly, you're concerned that the Micronesian islands are also now approaching the difficulty of their generations younger not being able to understand or maybe even write your language going forward. And while I think that all of our brothers and sisters from Micronesia are here and everywhere else trying to have a better life and make a better life, I see that I think you join island peoples trying to preserve whatever you can of their past and going into the future. Another thing is, wherever we go on Guam, whether we go to a grocery store, a hardware store, have to be at the hospital for some reason, or any other public or private venue, I can tell you probably not one day goes by that I hear a spoken language of another culture. That tells me that those individuals still are deeply concerned and also feel better speaking in their fluent language. And I personally never take it offensively. And I personally think it's an expression of individuals who believe that it's important for them to continue to use their language to communicate in. Even with young people, as we know, like you said, Professor Nodera, we're going to have some differences with the CNMI, but we don't have to do but a hop, skip, and a jump. And if you want to immerse yourself in the versions of CHAMORRO and CHAMORRO, you can do it quickly because for the most part, it's still used on a daily basis from toddlers all the way up to seniors. So I will move this bill forward without any hesitation. We're working with the committee to ensure that the final version is something, and as I said, in a need for a markup, we may call the commission for a roundtable if necessary. If we believe that everything else can be worked out with the committee and it's more prudent to put it on the floor, I will defer to the author on that. But I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up today to allay, I think, some people's concern that this is not important, but to once again reinforce that it's very important to many, many folks on our island. And I think that folks of other cultures deeply respect what we're doing going forward too. simply by their demonstration of consistently keeping their culture and their language alive. So with that, I will say now that Bill 218-38 CR has been duly heard and will receive full attention in the committee moving forward, and hopefully make the March session, and we will look forward to doing that. We will keep you abreast of the progress going forward. I want to thank you all once again, for your attention and being here, and have a great afternoon and evening. God bless you. Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Latsizu. Let me allow the author to close. My fault. Ay, bidao.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to, just to put it out on the record, I wanted a commission to be a vital part of the implementation working group. So that would be probably something that we can add during the markup as well. And on that note, let me just close. Thank you, Sejus Masi, Mr. Chair, for hearing this bill, Biba Bill 218. And I would like to thank again everyone who took the time to provide testimonies today. What we heard throughout this hearing reinforces why this bill is before us. We heard that the orthographic spelling of CHAMORRO is already being taught in our classrooms and being used extensively out there. We heard that cultural institutions and language authorities are already using standardized orthography. We heard that agencies can implement this change through phased administrative updates, not abrupt or costly overhauls. And we heard that preserving historical references and legal accuracy can be done responsibly without erasing history or creating confusion. One of the recurring themes today was consistency. And that brings me back to the question I often ask: what price do we pay when we are not consistent? We pay the price of confusion when students learn one spelling in school but see another in law. We pay the price of inconsistency when agencies send mixed messages through official documents. And we pay the price of not fully recognizing our identity when our own government cannot settle on how to properly name the people, language, and culture it represents. This bill does not rush agencies, it does not erase history, and it does not mandate perfection overnight. What it does is provide a standard, because orthographic rules need standards. It provides structure, coordination, and time so that government usage reflects accuracy, respect, and alignment with the community it serves. Language carries identity, and when our government chooses to be precise and consistent in its language, it strengthens that identity rather than diluting it. Bill 218-38 is a measured, thoughtful step toward clarity, not just in spelling, but in how we recognize ourselves in law, in our community, and as an island as a whole. I appreciate the dialogue today, and I thank our chair, Senator Chris Duenas, for hearing this bill. The expertise shared here and the willingness of our agencies to engage in implementation discussions, as well as my colleagues. Vice Speaker Anthony Addo was here, Senator Telo Taitague, and of course, Senator Will Parkinson. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to continuing this conversation, and I look forward to the markup session and as the bill moves forward. Thank you once again, Congressman Underwood, Mr. Peter, Ms. Simone, Ms. Geraldine, Auntie Laura. Earlier, Mayor BJ was here, Mr. John, and Ms. Anne-Marie. I got a message earlier asking me what was my CHAMORRO name. I'm gonna reveal it, everyone. It's Bonita. Thank you, Ms. Anne-Marie. I'm gonna start carrying that again. Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the time.
Jesus Masi. And now, That will conclude the testimony on Bill 218-38 COR. Thank you once again, everyone, for coming, and please have a great afternoon and evening, and God bless you. We've got work to do, so we will move on to the final piece of legislation. And since we've gone a moment, maybe there's some who are joining us to watch. And so we'll reintroduce the title of this bill as I recognize it. We will now hear Bill number 62-38 COR, introduced by William A. Parkinson, an act to add a new Chapter 18 to Title 4 of Guam Code Annotated relative to ensuring fair employment practices in the government of Guam, and to cite this act as the No More Pari Pari Act of 2025. Senator Parkinson, you are now recognized.
Thank you for the opportunity to present the opening statement in support of Bill number 62-38, entitled the No More Pari Pari Act of 2025. This measure proposes a clear, narrowly tailored anti-nepotism framework for the government of Guam by adding a new Chapter 18 to Title 4 of the Guam Code Annotated. Its core purpose is straightforward: to ensure that public employment decisions are based on merit, not family relationships. Ultimately, to restore public confidence in the fairness and integrity of government hiring practices. At its heart, nepotism undermines the most basic promise of public service: that government exists to serve the people equally, not to serve private familial interest. When relatives of appointing authorities are hired into the same agencies or placed under their direct supervision, even if every individual involved is capable and qualified, the appearance of favoritism alone corrodes the public trust. Public confidence is not only lost only when corruption is proven, it is lost when the system appears rigged, opaque, or inaccessible to ordinary people. Bill 62-38 addresses this problem. It does not impose a blanket prohibition on public employment for relatives of government officials. Instead, it focuses on two situations that create the highest risk of abuse or perceived impropriety. First, it prohibits employment within the same agency where a close relative or fiancé serves as the appointing authority. Second, it bars placement within a direct line of supervision between close relatives. These provisions align squarely with best practices found in anti-nepotism statutes across the United States, including those adopted by states such as Texas, Florida, Arizona, and New York, as well as long-standing federal civil service rules. Anti-nepotism laws nationwide are designed not to punish families, but to protect institutions. They recognize that conflicts of interest are most acute when one individual exercises hiring, firing, promotion, or disciplinary authority over a close family member. By limiting the statute to those circumstances, this bill preserves employment opportunities while eliminating the structural condition that invite favoritism, retaliation, and undue influence. Importantly, this legislation also reflects Guam's cultural realities. Our island is small, our families are interconnected, and relationships often overlap with professional life. That reality makes strong objective rules more necessary, not less. In a close-knit community, the absence of clear standards places both employees and supervisors in impossible positions. This bill provides clarity and protection for everyone involved, for employees who want to be judged on their own merits, for supervisors who want to avoid accusations of favoritism, and for the public to expect fairness from its government. From a governance perspective, nepotism has measurable consequences. Studies in public administration consistently show that perceived favoritism reduces employee morale, increases turnover significantly, and weakens institutional performance. When workers believe advancement is determined by connections rather than competence, productivity suffers and talent leaves. Guam cannot afford that loss. In an era where our government struggles to recruit and retain skilled professionals, merit-based hiring is an operational necessity. Bill 62-38 also strengthens legal defensibility for the government of Guam. Clear statutory prohibitions reduce litigation risk by setting objective standards that could be uniformly enforced. Agencies benefit from having bright-line rules rather than ad hoc decisions that vary by administration. This promotes consistency across the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, all of which are covered by the bill's definition of agency. Finally, this measure sends an important message to the people of Guam. It says that public service is a trust and not a privilege. It says that government jobs are not inheritance to be passed down, but responsibilities earned through qualifications and performance. And it says that while family and community remain central to our culture, they cannot override the principles of fairness and accountability that legitimate democratic institutions require. For these reasons, I strongly urge the committee to advance Bill 62-38, the No More Pari Pari Act of 2025, since it is modest in scope, firm in its principle, and essential to strengthening public confidence in our government. It aligns Guam with widely accepted standards of good governance while respecting local context, and it represents a meaningful step towards a more transparent, professional, and trusted civil service. I ask my colleagues once again to support this bill, and with that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Senator Parkinson. At this time, I'll recognize members of the panel as are up here on the dais here, as we have not received any written testimony, or do we not have anyone signed up to discuss the bill. Senator Taitague, you're recognized on any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Because there is no one here, I really, was so looking forward to hearing from at least DOA, as well as the Attorney General's office, to ensure guidance is provided or, recommended in any manner to make sure whatever this bill is trying to achieve gets to a point without breaking any other laws to move forward, or make it very difficult for not just those who are related, but, indirect, relations too with an individual. So we haven't, that is not addressed in here. It's just by relation. But what happens when that indirect relation is somewhat of another, not relative, but you know what I'm talking about, girlfriend, boyfriend, married, not married, but something like that, fiance, per se. So other than that, I'm looking forward, Mr. Chair, to hearing from, and I hope too as well, Mr. Chair, that whatever testimony you receive on this legislation, that we also get a copy of it, because I really wanted to see what other people had to say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Taitague, at this time, as I mentioned earlier, we have no testimony that has been presented to the committee, but certainly within the time frame of the opening, the time allotted for testimony, written testimony, I'm sure the author would more than likely try to solicit some, and so that will be distributed to all senators and be part of the markup and committee report as we move forward. Senator Calvo, you recognize at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything, no remarks or anything for now, so I will wait for further testimonies. On that note, I give my time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and I would also just like to thank the author for the introduction of the bill, and I also don't have any questions or comments at this time. But like I said, I will work with whatever written testimony comes in with the author to maybe answer any questions that have been put on the record here by Senator Taitague. Maybe I'll handle that in his closing. And then I'll work with the author to mark the bill up to ensure that it's suitable for placement in an upcoming session. So with that, I will now offer the author to close on the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm somebody that believes in institutions, that we need to build things that last when we are no longer in these chairs ourselves. That the strength of our government is not based on the strength of any individual in any elected position, but in the strength and the institutions that endure when those elected officials are no longer there. And one of the ways we do that is by having faith in our institutions, that they're fair and that they're competent and that they are based on merit and things that are measurable and not capricious reasons like somebody is related to me. I think this bill is particularly timely and important now because we are going to be coming into a new set of elections, potentially new governors and new attorney generals and new senators and new congressmen, potentially changes all across the board. Who knows what the next 10 years could look like? The world is moving rapidly, very fast. And with so much uncertainty in the world, I would like to have certainty in my own local government that there are qualified people there doing the job, and not just because they're somebody's family member. Because that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of that being normalized, where people celebrate the idea that, hey, it's okay for me to hire my spouse or my brother or my sister or my whatever because other people have done it before. It's like JFK. JFK hired his brother, so it's got to be okay for me. And I reject that. I reject that. And I do not want to go into a new government into the next coming years where that this is a normalized idea, that we can hire our family members, that we can hire people so close to us and expect our government to act fairly, to act rationally, to not have retaliation when people are making good faith efforts to improve these institutions that we are not enfeoffed on, but that are sacred trusts that we hold on to for a few years. It is my solemn goal to leave this chair better than I found it. This is not my seat forever, and it disturbs me to see this idea among some public officials that these elected offices are their personal fiefdoms. I could hire my brother, I could hire my wife. Where does it stop? These are the people I could trust the most, so let me just start giving contracts to my brothers and sisters. Where does the line end? Where does the familial nepotism stop? I say we put a clean line in the sand now. Say we will not stand for this nonsense anymore. Let's do something to put some more faith back in the institutions. Because I don't know about you, my colleagues, but out there, the people of Guam, the people of America, the people of the world do not trust their governments. They see how poorly that they are being represented. And I think that the idea of this cronyism, this familial nepotism, is a real symptom of a larger rot that people can't quite articulate, but they all know is there. They can all feel it. We all feel it. So let's put a stop to this fiction that not having these rules is okay. Because not having these rules is tacitly endorsing people who would openly flaunt that they would hire their family members, openly flaunt that they are hiring their family members. And that just doesn't sit right with me. And so I ask my colleagues to please support this. You know, I hope the executive branch and the judicial branch and all the requested agencies would turn in some sort of written correspondence, some sort of testimony, so we can get your position on the books. And I don't know what it is. Maybe people don't want to answer the hard questions, but it's really concerning to me that for something that everybody knows is a significant problem in the government in Guam, that everybody knows happens. It's a refrain I've grown up with my whole life on the island. And it seems insane to me that we've never done anything to curtail it. So I ask my colleagues, I ask the people who are stakeholders in this, the government stakeholders in this, to please send in your written testimony. Please get your positions in, and let's move this legislation forward. Because I do not want to go into the next 8 years having questions on the competency of the people who are running the various branches of our government. The people of Guam deserve better, and we owe it ourselves to do better. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you very much. And thank you for this opportunity to hear the bill.
Senator Parkinson. So with that, we will now consider Bill 62-38 heard. And this will conclude today's public hearing on bill numbers 142-218 and 62-38 respectively, COR. The committee will continue to accept written testimony on the bills within 7 calendar days from today, which may be addressed to Senator Christopher M. Duenas as chairman of the committee and mailed to 163 West Chalan Santupapa, Hagatnya, Guam 96910. You may also email your testimonies to senator.duenas@guamlegislature.gov. This afternoon's public hearing is now adjourned, and the time now is 4:17. Suzus Masi, God bless you, and have a great evening, Guam.